Good morning. So, another day. I was looking at the interior of my head, at the different lists that contain subjects that I want to cover this morning, and don't know how to choose. So, I'm going to just do a stream of consciousness situation here. I think that's more up my alley. I was looking at a video by Zafy this morning around baseline YouTube uh, development coaching, as far as like things to do and not do, etc. And he made some really good points, for sure. And one thing that I wanted to add to the list, as maybe like 0.5, instead of number one, but 0.5, is to see if you can get yourself into a place where doing videos is a kind of personal ritual of sorts, that it serves you and you alone 100%, maybe 110%, in case there's 10% doubt that it's serving you. And when you hit obstacles, when you feel resistance, to make that resistance good company. It means you're touching something real. Routine doesn't like to meet with resistance. And there's something I feel that's sort of built into human nature to avoid resistance. And I think this is mainly left over from like a arrested development of childhood in adults. But if you desire to mature and grow into said golden years, and you can still be in your golden years and be in your mid 40s and early 50s and maybe even late 30s, depending on what you're bringing to the table. So that is life experience and just your overall default character, outside of pretending to be or limiting yourself based on a career or someone you live with, or family, friends, who knows. But ultimately, personal ritual, serving yourself, have solid reasons to give out to the world through this medium. And there's a lot of imaginations around what it will become and whether it's futile effort, and what's it all for, and ultimately that's all coming from expectation, and expectation is your enemy, right off the bat. It's better to keep your curiosity in front of that, and let curiosity answer expectation. So in a way, it's like expectation is curiosity being lazy. So with curiosity, you have to do some heavy lifting in order to bring answers to curiosity. And expectation is oftentimes curiosity that has turned into resentment or some sort of self-sabotage situation where your own redundant thoughts are judging you or keeping you from achieving something that you want to achieve, and then look at the scale of the want. I mean, whether it's doable in small increments versus some Goliath uh, task or goal that you've set yourself up to fail, because no large goal is achieved without small ones being practice runs. So be patient and just work. Um, Going to the post office today to grab the new video equipment that's coming. So I'm going to be doing some side by side narrations and introductions to my sculptures, and let you in a little bit more into what brings me. One of the things that brings me answers to my passion and curiosity. There's a link down in the description to my website. You can go over there and take a peek, and I also have an Etsy store, and you're welcome to contact me direct through YouTube as well. This channel is this particular channel is mainly focused around psychology, mental health, self-help, but self-help is not. It's more of an implied subject heading, not something that I really focus on as far as a main goal. Mainly, the channel is going to be pretty diverse, interweaving the studio life with writings and critique and analysis and self-care, but it's not solely dedicated to any kind of focus in that area. It's more implied. So something I was thinking about last night was around dignity and how we become what we're connected to, what we will ourselves to be connected to. And I think there's a form of, you might call it gray magic, not white or black magic, but gray, in the sense that it's possible, and which extreme it goes to is oftentimes anyone's guess as far as what it will achieve in the end. Because sometimes when you get entangled with someone, the entanglement is obviously, if you're aware of it, negative, and creates a lot of anxiety, because oftentimes it's a workplace entanglement, or it's a friendship of convenience, or a marriage of convenience, and you can't get out of it. Or let's say you're pragmatically reluctant to get out of it. And so ultimately with these things, there's a connection that may teach you something, or it may spiral into complete collapse of your worldview and your ego. So you just don't know until you go through the process. Now, if you've gone through this process many times and pretty much have achieved the same results, then you get out faster, and it's not really a process. It's more of a noticing the writing on the wall before the wall falls on you in your sleep. And so with that, it's gray magic. It's ambiguous somewhat, because simply people become themselves in different ways each day based on the choices they make and what they're connected to. Take Donald Trump, for instance. 10, 15 years ago, he was against AIPAC and backers engineering elections and such. Now he's totally married to AIPAC and Israel. So how did he change? Well, Miriam Adelson helped with $250 million from her Sands Casino cartel, along with a few other donations of, I think, around 50 million at one point and another 20 or 30 at another. And with Trump, he definitely suffers from arrested development, a phenomenon where one's emotional quotient, or it's like the emotional side of emotion, like IQ. So his worldview is that of, say, a 14, 15-year-old. And that's where it is. That's just simply where it is. His values, his what makes him tick. So ultimately, he is not hard to please in the sense of being able to be manipulated and controlled by reward and result, like a child is in a sense. So it's not a very complex situation with Trump, where he'll spout out a lot of thoughts, but for him, the main focus is feelings, how he feels about himself, and who he's connected to that reinforces those positive feelings or those justifications. It's an emotional arena for him. It has nothing to do with dignity, self-respect, conscience, humanity, empathy, compassion, bravery, honor. That's why those things he insults all throughout both of his terms. There's hundreds and hundreds of examples of this, that virtues and ethics and principles is like kryptonite to the MAGA movement. Ultimately, it's emotion that drives it. And however the emotion is gotten, whether it's gotten through delusions of grandeur, outright lies, because in the imagination, emotion can be achieved by no rules whatsoever. There are no rules in the imagination to creating a positive emotion. And I'll put that in air quotes. Delusion is kind of a complex thing, and I won't go into how to take that scaffold by scaffold level apart and or climb it. But let's just say that it's a form of self-entertainment, and it's a mental health condition. So, and there's layers to it, and there's levels and varying degrees of high functionality to complete malfunctionality, depending on how long a person's been doing it, what their surroundings are, where they're doing it, and what their particular role in life is, and how that dance, what kind of dance floor is that person dancing on. And so a lot of variables, sort of epigenetic variables. And so back to dignity and ethics and gray magic and becoming what you connect yourself to. We make decisions every day. We carry people's loads consciously. We apologize. Sometimes we don't, and we hold it in, and that holding has its own weird way of working on us, unbeknown to us and also known to us, and we're completely powerless against it. It's a force of nature, let's say, a force of inner world nature, that when you hold an apology in and you know it's deserving, and you're not letting it out, it will start doing some weird things to your walls. So the point here is be careful about who you connect to and what thoughts that connection creates in your head. Make sure that the thoughts that you're having about that connection match the connection's thoughts as well. Oftentimes, with friendships of convenience, you'll connect in a super positive way and reinforce a lot of positive things. And that will be your habit: joking, sharing, connecting similarities and such. But when the pedal hits the metal and there's a criticism or a constructive, let's say, let's call it a constructive criticism, because that's what friends do. If you're mature and the friendship wants to grow and evolve and not be a redundant entertainment, other side of Jerry Springer situation. Every once in a while, some constructive criticism will come down the pipeline. Well, in a friendship of convenience, constructive criticism is not allowed. And you will see it all fall apart when something is, when a shadow piece is triggered. So it's important to always verify your own imaginations about whoever you're connected to. So if you're having conversations in your head about where it's going, what you'd like to do with it in the future, and the other person's, if you're putting thoughts in their head, in your head, then that's a sign of a dysfunction. And so ASAP, you want to get with that person, write a list if you need to, and just verify your own thoughts, that they're not only cogent to yourself, that that there's actually a reciprocal situation occurring on the outside of your psyche. Oftentimes, when we're fearful of our emotions or our feelings, we'll compensate with that by answering questions for someone else in our own heads. And that's a kind of voodoo that you really don't want to make any more complex than it needs to be. So real friends are always a work in progress. And the friendship is allergic to repeating itself. It's always looking for another angle and more. And there's going to be in that true friendship, there's going to be tension because you're both evolving, and evolution is all about tension and also repose. I mean, the sun does go down, and predators do sleep. Not to say that friendship is a predator, but I think you get my point. It's not all about tension, but ultimately, relaxation and tension. It's important that you don't have a favorite in a real relationship or friendship. But intuitively, you're going to go towards relaxation. But inevitably, that will become a failure because the emotional side needs the tension in order to build value and dignity and character and a sense of worth. So this would be a good time to switch back to Trump. Worthiness. Trump is very sketchy. He darts around a lot. And that's because, it's because of a lot of things, but one of the things I feel is, and he's super guarded around anyone asking him to verify his own values or his own assumptions. So just under the layer of being a pathological liar, there's a little boy that knows that the connections he has are not worthy of the dignity he needs from himself. Now, how he justifies and how he consoles himself is beyond me. I don't know him that well, of course, and I would guess that it's a very private affair, that his coping mechanisms are as cloaked and armored as his sense of self is, and so he's got a lot going on. He's a multi-tiered mental health laboratory, and so the artificial side of what we create through our imagination is an interesting situation. That's something that I'm passionate about, like trying to understand, ironically enough, how it is that people are allowed to fool themselves and be fools, and how does that even happen? We know it happens, but what's the reason behind it? What purpose does it serve? Because it's not obvious in the sense that if you have a bucket and you're walking down a sidewalk, it's highly probable that you have a plan to put something in the bucket. Water, grapes, maybe a loaf of bread, who knows, maybe another bucket. But with the fooling oneself, it simply occurs, and then the next day, nothing occurs. There's nothing in the bucket. And there may not be anything in the bucket for years. Like, there's no real sense of cause and effect, although it's very slow. It's a slow rot, let's say, and it compounds little by little, and then eventually the bottom falls out. And it doesn't. A person could also pass away being completely oblivious to the skeletons in the closet that they built an entire lifestyle around avoiding. So I find that curious. It's sort of an odd fact of life that people can build up a persona or an ego that is completely counterintuitive to who they actually are. A kind of a psyche golem of sorts, made from the clay pried off of other people's heels and cobbled together and brought to life to have something to call your own. It's a desperate situation, and Trump has always been a desperate psychology. Desperate for attention, zero power. Because power comes from within. Power comes from being an individual, solitary, able to stand on one's own, not dependent, interdependent on one's morals, principles, ethics, being able to stand on your own. That's the beginning of power. Not being afraid to be alone. And Trump is very afraid of being alone. He simply does not know what to do with it. So he's in a condition. He's not by any stretch of the imagination meant to be a president. I would say he did that on a whim, but didn't really know what the job was really about. So he's firing people because they don't mimic himself. So when those people don't mirror himself like an ideal mother or father would, appreciating him like a child needs to be appreciated, he fires them, particularly women. And of course that makes sense because most men, I put that in air quotes as well, that suffer from what he does, have dark mother baggage. And of course that dark mother has ancestral baggage of her own because she didn't just build herself, she was built by her mother and her mother's mother and so on and so forth. And of course those mothers were built by dark fathers. But not always in that order. Not all dark mothers are built by dark fathers and vice versa. So yeah, I think that's it for the the dignity side of things with Trump and character development and um, where I kind of wanted to go with that riff. And Iran is, speaking of dignity, Iran is holding true to its needs and convictions, and um, the Greater Israel Project is slowly crumbling. Things are getting more acute there. We have a long ways to go. It's only been around for like 77 years, but it's going to take some time to dismantle and disperse. But the apartheid nation of Israel just simply will not be allowed to become Greater Israel. Too many people are awake to what it is and what it's always been, and it's simply a malignancy that cannot hide as benign anymore. And as you know, the only thing you can do with a malignancy is remove it. And so the structure of Israel will change with or without Israel's permission. What I'm seeing is most likely a two-state situation, a forced two-state situation, or simply a mass exodus in a ghost town, large, for maybe a week or two. And then a repopulation by indigenous people. But it's going to have to change, or a kind of an integration of sorts. But that will happen only after decades of slow rebuilding of a new level of understanding and cooperation. But I think that as far as the cult mindset that has been seeded there from the very beginning, even before 1948, it was seeded in the Balfour Papers, and in the mid 1900s. Most cults don't rehabilitate themselves. Individuals do, but not the cult itself. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. There's a lot of peripheral things that will also need to change. Corporations that can only be connected to a cult-like entity like Israel and not other corporations. So those corporations will have their own in-home resistance and rehabilitation to do. And then, of course, all the proxies of Israel that benefit from Israel's militia being where they are in the Middle East, they'll have to rehabilitate as well. So it's going to be a sort of a reunion of sorts of mental health crises across the board on an ancestral level. Britain will have to deal with its ancestral colonial mindset. America, as an extension of British psychology around that. The Zionists, the Christian Zionists, the Israeli Zionists. So, and proxy countries that support Israel, they'll have to be rehabilitated as well. Or they'll go into denial, find a new coping mechanism, and move on. So that's another thing I'm passionate about, is supporting the dissolution of apartheid Israel. I think it stands not only as an obvious symbol of genocidal, a genocidal malignancy that we need to learn from, because it has occurred before, and but it's also a symbol of individuals with issues that mass together in a misery loves company way. And cults don't have contradictory members. Every member has something in common. And it's like an unspoken agreement to belong. And this belonging is not really their choice. It's a mental health condition that belongs in company with another mental health condition that is close enough to what it has that it feels normal. And so it's a collection of abnormalities, let's say. And being abnormal, once you get past a few thousand people, becomes normal, because the numbers seemingly speak for themselves. The more people you have around you that are like you, the more justified and normal it feels. Although on a planet of 8 billion people, 7 million people, 5.5 million of them support the genocide in Gaza and Lebanon. 5.5 million is not a lot of people in the scheme of things, let's say. So it's still a bubble. It's a yeah, it's a cult, and it will not rehabilitate itself. So we're in the times of a cult being dismembered by its own effects. And my belief is the first angels were morals, ethics, and principles. And it goes back to creating YouTube videos for yourself and yourself alone, to hear your voice, to check your thoughts, to pace yourself in everything you do. Check your dignity meter, check your conscience, check your unhappiness and your happiness, maintain composure, be okay with losing your shit too, if you need to demark a boundary, as long as you're being truthful. You create boundaries based on lies, you're just ultimately welding the joints of your armor closed. So it's a process, as everything is for the most part. And share your passions. Find good tools. Find good people if you can. But most of all, find good tools. Well, I'm going to hop into the day and wish you a good one. And thank you for your support with the channel. Till next time. Oh, one more thing. I keep forgetting to show this, and I want to do it. It's Friday, and so this is a little toad chieftain that I made quite some time ago with casting pewter. And this piece is it has multimedia invested in it, like a red coral skull, an actual muskrat skull, and precast shark's teeth that are also pewter. So there's several parts that have been hand fused with a soldering iron and sculpted together to make one composition. And these are like personal totemic, like altar pieces that I do from time to time, just to take a break from the larger sculptures. And so I cast the toad with other things in the mold, bones and semi-precious stones and glass and crystal, things like this. But then I go back with other objects that have also been cast in pewter, and I fuse them onto the toad. And so this is it. I get the camera to focus on it. There we go. So that's an amethyst sphere in his jaw there. And you can see the bones down here, right here, where my middle finger is, right there. Those are bones. And when I clear coat these to protect them from, getting any kind of oxidation, I normally don't clear coat the bone. I like to keep it to the air and natural, unless it reinforces the bone and helps strengthen it, because sometimes they can be a little disjointed. This is the top view. My rugged construction hands here. So this might be called like the muskrat chieftain or something like this. I'm not sure. This is a pretty old piece. I did this probably 7 or 8 years ago. One of a kind. Most of my pieces are. I'm not really into mass producing. Like, I just create, and my main, like when I cast a piece, especially a large piece, my main desire or passion is to get the piece in metal. And once it's in metal, it's been born, and that's it. It's a done deal. And I have absolutely no desire to make a second edition whatsoever, like zero, like below zero, like the mother of zero. And it's interesting. It's because the real desire is to just create something else and do it again, but differently. So passions are also friendships. And we'll get into that later, maybe. I think that's a sort of a paranormal area of investigation that's worthy. There's a lot of paranormal stuff going on in the most ordinary way. Well, maybe not most, but some paranormal things are actually inventions that entertain and cover up the actual paranormal that's occurring. So thank you for the support, and till we meet again.